Good evening, Rink Rats. Great to see you, and welcome to the Blackhawks Rinkcast, Season 7, Episode 1. Even though I forgot to change the ticker, it's actually not Episode 11. It's Episode 1 of the new season. Season number 7 from therink.com. It's time to talk Blackhawk hockey, folks. It is on the horizon. Training camp does start tomorrow. I think our stream just froze there for a minute, but now it's back. That's probably Sean's fault. We'll introduce him in a minute. He's usually the guy with the internet problems. Anyway, I'm Andy Campbell. I'm your host tonight. We have an awesome cast, and we have a great crew led by the co-founder and the gatekeeper. You might know him as Puckin' Hostile, Jeff Osborn. How we doing, buddy? What's up,
Howdy, folks? Welcome to be, happy to be back, actually. We got a good season ahead of us.
Awesome season. And then there is Sean Fitzgerald, who I just blamed for internet problems and also anything else that's going poorly in my life. Shawnee, how the hell you doing, buddy?
I am good. Wearing a Chicago Dogs hat of the Midwest League, so I kind of got away from talking about my hat about last year's pod, so I decided to throw that in there, and I'm
not bad.
Nobody cares, Sean.
Yeah,
nobody
like
cares.
Nobody cares.
I like the light blue trim on there. And then joining us from Strong Island, Blackhawk loyalist and Kansas City Chiefs fan as well, the Bard. Andrew Bard, how are we doing, buddy?
What's going on?
Good to see you, my friend. And card collector, content editor, prospect guru, who had a very good, some good pre-draft analysis of not only the Chicago Blackhawk picks, but around the league. Eric Andrews, what's going on, buddy? How you been?
Doing well. It's been fun seeing 98 wearing a red, white, and black sweater of late.
Who is that?
Don't know.
Oh, got it. Excellent. And we'd like to welcome to the rink, originally from Elgin, Illinois, now relocated to the sunny state of Florida, Brent Meske, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, guys.
New writer. We will see him, a lot of stuff from him in the coming future.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. We're looking forward for some good features for you, Brent. Welcome aboard, and awesome to have you with us. So, folks, we got training camp starting tomorrow. And here we go. And what is on the tip of everyone's tongue? That guy that Eric was referencing, number 98, Connor Bedard.
Who?
He's this new guy. He's 18 years old. Everyone's saying he's overrated. But then something happened in the prospect tournament that maybe had people second-guessing that sentiment. A hat trick in one game of hockey. Sure, prospect camp. Everyone's, it's not the NHL yet. Whatever. He's overrated, and he's going to be too small. But what did we see there, guys? I mean, we have to touch base on this. That was pretty incredible. Gate, were you on the edge of your seat that whole time or what?
Well, considering I didn't actually get to watch the stream, I was watching it remotely. I was surprised. I shouldn't say I was surprised, but he went out there and made it look pretty effortless. Yeah. And it was kind of funny how he came out there right after Fantilli. And I know Bardo is going to bring up Fantilli in a little bit, but it's kind of funny how Fantilli went out there and threw out a hat trick, and then everyone's like, "Oh, well, look at this guy; he's so good." And then Bedard just answered all the questions, and created a couple more questions probably by going out there and just making it look easy with his snaptastic goals.
It's unbelievable. That release is very, very special. And Eric, you were one of the few that watched the entire game, from start to finish. And I watched a decent portion of it, but it looked like he took a little bit of time to just kind of feel out what was going on, and then all of a sudden said, "All right, let's do this."
For sure. Your thoughts? Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. I mean, I wouldn't say that he looked tentative in the first period, but as you said, he was kind of, feeling things out and just getting his feet wet. I mean, it was the first competitive hockey that he had been playing in a number of months, so it's understandable. But, the thing that stood out to me too, I mean, obviously, yes, the goal is the great shot, the great release, all of that. But the really encouraging thing for me is that he wasn't trying to force it either. He was taking advantage of the opportunities that presented themselves, but he wasn't forcing shots. So, you could see that he was making the smart play. He was deferring to teammates a lot as well. And vice versa. Obviously, guys were trying to get him the puck too. But the decision-making was definitely a very encouraging aspect of that game for sure.
Bardo, was that anything that stood out in your mind as far as his performance? I mean, I think the one thing that I was mesmerized by is obviously his quick release. Everybody loves that. And his second goal, pulling it in that close to your body and being able to put that where he did is not something that your average hockey player could do, but his puck protection.
Yeah.
And how
I never thought I'd see the day where the Blackhawks would get Brian Bedard in and as their number one defenseman. It's very exciting. It's not Brian Bedard. Sorry. He was phenomenal. I mean, that shot was absolutely ridiculous. And I think it was one of the broadcasters said whippiness of his stick. I mean, it was just crazy the torque that thing took when he shot it, and just the accuracy. I mean, we always marveled at Kane's accuracy. I think he's like 20 times better than him accuracy wise.
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty astonishing stuff. Yeah. What about you, Shawnee?
Yeah, he lived up to the billing in that prospect tournament. Obviously, he was the number one overall pick. He's a generational talent, according to all the scouts, and the most heralded prospects in Connor McDavid. So you should expect something like this to happen, especially when he's playing with guys that you already know he's extremely better than. Like, it's not like he went out and did this in an NHL All-Star game yet. But I was excited. I'm excited for the future of the Blackhawks. And I think as much as the excitement is, I think we need to temper our expectations when it gets into the season, because he is only 18 years old. It's going to be the NHL. There's going to be grown men. So maybe let's not expect highlight reel goals every night in the NHL.
Yeah. No, I mean, I feel that. I don't want to, no one wants to see a lot of unnecessary pressure on the kid. But Brent, I mean, do you feel excited? Do you feel like it's okay to be excited? I mean, do you have any concerns about what you saw the other night?
I mean, it's the first time I've been excited about the Blackhawks in years. So, and I think a lot of people would echo that sentiment. And I will follow it up with, I know I showed you guys already, but I also come from this as my Chicago rooting interest. So to be excited about Chicago sports again, I mean, everybody but the Blackhawks are kind of in the gutter right now. I mean, exciting.
Northsiders are feeling good.
They're not going to make the playoffs, but they're doing better than the South side.
Oh, hey, still in the playoffs.
Shots fired.
Still in the playoffs as of today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. So anyway, Bedard's a real deal, and I think Hawk fans, it's okay to be excited. Get excited about this guy. I mean, he will pull off some highlight reel material as an 18-year-old. To that end, as Sean was mentioning, we can't expect it to happen every night. But there are going to be some moments on NHL tonight where everyone's going to want to tune into this kid. And, over under on 70 points. What do you think? Let's go around the room. Gate.
On Bedard, 70 points, or the Hawks 70 points?
Bedard. Yeah, we're not going to win games. Yeah.
I'd say he's going to be right around there, 68, 75, somewhere in that area maybe, which is 30, 35 goals. I think he could pull that off.
Yeah.
Even at 30 goals, 40 assists, I mean, that's in the 70 range. And I think that's pretty reasonable for a guy with his talent level.
Yeah. Everyone else catching that Frisbee? Bardo?
I'm going to say slightly under, because I just don't trust the help around him to be able to get all those assists. I think he's going to be the one that's going to get the 35 goals. I don't think that's going to be – I think that's realistic. I just think 30, 32 assists. I don't know if he's getting –
I mean, I don't know. He certainly doesn't have a lot of playmakers around him, but he does have a lot of guys that can win pucks.
He does, but is Taylor Hall staying healthy a whole year? I mean, I don't know if you can count
who
on
knows?
that. And that's probably his best winger as of now.
Yeah, poor Taylor. What a drag.
Already kicking him to the curb.
Poor guy just gets shuttled around. Number one overall pick, shuttled around his whole career. Well, what about the rest of the prospect tournament? Eric, you watched this probably more than any of us. You're a big prospect guy. What are some of the other prospects of note, some guys that caught your eye over the two games that were played? Handful of young guys, handful of promise, actually. I mean, it's the best prospect pool the Hawks have had in some time. But what say you about this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think obviously the focus in the first game was Bedard, obviously. But I think the nice thing, and I didn't catch all of the second game against the Blues, or against the Wild, excuse me. But I think, from what I did see, it was nice to kind of just watch the group and not just be constantly thinking about Bedard, constantly be glued to him when he was on the ice. So you could really, look at the other guys and kind of see what they were doing well. A couple guys that stood out to me were Colton Dock and Ryder Rolston, actually, just because they both had a lot of that kind of like get up and go mentality, chasing hard after pucks, not afraid to go to the dirty areas. And obviously, like we were saying, this is just a prospect tournament. It's not the NHL by any means, but still, seeing that mentality and seeing them, consciously making those decisions to play that tough brand of hockey is definitely encouraging. Defensively, I thought obviously Korchinski looked really good and, very fluid with the puck. So that's encouraging. Didn't necessarily see a whole lot of, where his defensive game is at. Obviously, that's kind of the big question mark heading into camp for him. But even guys like Nolan Allen, Ethan Del Mastro, they looked good. Obviously, Drew Commesso had a shutout in the first game, so that's really encouraging as well. I think those are kind of the guys that stuck out the most to me.
He's no Jackson Stauber, though.
Oh, no. Or Matt Tompkins.
Yeah, one name that keeps popping up, and No Roids, Just Rage wrote this in, Wyatt Kaiser. It was very noticeable. And even before prospect camp, when the rookies were just practicing, everyone's like, ooh, Wyatt looks great. Wyatt looks great. Gate, not so sure. What do you think, Brent? What do you think, Wyatt Kaiser?
I mean, he's solid. I mean, he looked good in the games. I mean, and that's really the first time we're seeing him, obviously. And I think kind of to the point about Korchinski, going back to him, I mean, if the biggest knock on that guy right now is that we don't know about his defensive play, why don't we just look at who the goaltenders are going to be this year? I think we could have our 2010, 2013, 2015 defensive cores in front of them. Goals are still going to go in the net against this team. So, I mean, give the kid a shot. Any of these young defensemen, I think this is your perfect year. And a guy like Wyatt Kaiser kind of showed that in the prospect camp. Give him the time. Like, this team isn't winning anything this year. This team shouldn't want to win anything this year. You should want to be in the lottery again next year.
Right. So Kaiser, he left school. He played 9 games for the Hawks last year. Bardo, did you see anything in those 9 games where you think that he's going to stick this year? Is it too hard to tell going into camp?
I mean, I don't think anything really stood out. He's definitely going to get a shot at camp. In the game that I saw him play in, which was the first game, I mean, I thought he had a little bit of a fearlessness to him that I liked. He's a pretty good skater. So I certainly think he's going to get a shot for sure. Korchinski, it seems like he might get those first, 8 or 9 games before potentially being sent back to juniors. And again, I always talk about this is the development of Nolan Allen. I mean, he went from being, everyone killing Stan Bowman for picking him because he was a reach at the time, which may have been the case. And then I think he had a lousy first year, and now he's all of a sudden developed into, a steady prospect. I mean, he still has some, rough edges to his game, but I think there's promise there for sure.
Yeah. Gate, on the goaltender front, with your goaltender knowledge, I mean, obviously Commesso with the shutout, which was pretty cool, but I mean, we'll probably see him he'll be in the AHL probably most of the year. I don't know. Could he get a late call up at some point, or?
I mean, there's going to be injuries. Peter Mrazek's going to get hurt.
True.
It's just, water is wet and Peter Mrazek gets hurt. Like that's what happens.
Peter Mrazek getting hurt.
Yeah. So like you're going to have, Soderblom, who was okay when he was in the, when he was up in the NHL. I think he's, a pretty good player. He's still young. I think he's got some really good potential. There's a lot of people hating on him, just kind of skipping right over him to Jackson Stauber. And, I'll get to that right now. Like that guy, like he looked like garbage last year in the preseason. He looked awful. He couldn't stop a thing. And, he played a little in the AHL and he did have a good stretch in the pros, but like, I want to see, 10 games out of the guy before I'm going to, anoint him, an NHL player.
The goalie Messiah.
There's a reason why he was an unrestricted free agent coming out of college and why they signed him that way. Like he was undrafted. There's a reason for that, So he'll be fine in the AHL, and that's great. And Commesso will be fine in the AHL, and that's great. And I think Soderblom, it's probably time for him to, make that step to be more of a full-time NHLer just to see, what he's going to turn into. He may be a Colin Delia, which, doesn't stick, or maybe, Kevin Lankinen, who played well for a stretch, but then ended up, he's disappeared. Where's Kevin Lankinen now? I mean, he's playing for the Predators, but like, have you heard anything about Kevin Lankinen since he left? No, not a damn thing. And there were people that were ready to sell the farm for Kevin Lankinen and how great he was. And it was the same for, Subban too. It's, I hate to say it, it's the uneducated eye as far as goalies go. Like, they can get on heaters for 2 or 3 games and play really well until the league actually, I want to see you go through the league one full time and these guys get film on you. Mm-hmm. And then come back and we'll see what happens the second time they come through the league and how teams have adjusted or not been able to adjust to these goalies. Then you can really tell how a goalie is going to be. It's really hard for him to like come up with 3 games and have a heater because he's a guy no one's ever seen before. And, the Blackhawks are playing on a high because they got a rookie in net and they're trying to really protect him. That doesn't happen 10, 15 games into the season, or into your career. After a while, it kind of just goes away. So
Jeff Glass won some games in the NHL. So what you're saying is right, Gate. Like, goalies can get on heaters. But like,
they do. You saw it in the playoffs last year. Like Vegas didn't have. I mean, those goalies are not. They're not top echelon NHL goalies, but they got on heaters. They got hot at the right time, and that's what happens. I mean, you've seen that for years and years and years and years. Blackhawks, Bob Mason. He got on a heater with the Capitals. He was a rookie. He wasn't really that good. He got on a heater with the Capitals, took him to the the quarterfinals or something like that. And then he gets this big free agent contract from the Blackhawks. He hadn't seen the entire league. He comes here and then it's happened a lot of times with a lot of goalies.
Jordan Biggington or whatever the hell is.
Yeah. Oh, Bennington. Jeez, that guy fell apart fast.
Look at Cristobal Huet.
Yeah. Alain Chevrier. Everyone remember Alain Chevrier?
Yeah. Jacques Cloutier. Like, it happens.
Yeah. Greg Millen.
Yeah.
Greg Millen. I love it. But one of the better looks in hockey history.
Yeah. I mean, he's lefty, so he's got to be good, right?
Yeah. The Aeroflex pads and that Jofa cage. They're sick.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
I have a lot of cases with goalies is that, if you go back to the 2010 team with that had Niemi was a talented goalie, but he had holes in his game. But at the same time, he had a great team in front of him that limited the shots. And I think that's a lot of what Vegas did last year. They limited shots. They were so good defensively. They just needed whatever the guy's name was. What was his name? Hill? What was his last name? The goalie.
Aiden Hill? Yeah, Aiden
Hill. They just needed him to come up with big saves when needed. That's all you needed.
I mean, they had Logan Thompson. They had all kinds of goalies.
They had all kinds of gutses, and it's just a matter of
Jonathan Quick. Jonathan Quick was there too.
Yeah,
for a while.
He
was. That's right.
It's a whole thing. Like they got to go through the league once before you could actually make a really good assumption on a goalie. And Jackson Stauber hasn't done that. So to say you're going to push everybody aside and slide Jackson Stauber ahead of everybody because he had 3 decent games in the NHL.
He played
that's
6.
Silly.
But...
Yeah, but that doesn't say he played great in all 6 games.
No. I'm just saying. Yeah.
So let's just calm down a little bit. Let's stay with the plan. Let's Soderblom and Mrazek, and then you got Comesso and Stauber in the A.
Yeah,
and let's just kind of hang there. And
I mean, I haven't even I'm surprised. I'm not trying to quibble, but I really are people out there really talking about Jackson Stauber like he's a real deal.
At one
are they really? I mean, he's got an under 9 save percentage.
In the AHL, he did.
Well, yeah, and even in his games with the Hawks.
I got to be honest, I'm least concerned about the goaltending position. I'm more concerned with developing the 18 players that play in front of the goaltender because to me is way more important. So,
yeah, well, to that end, I mean, I don't, the Blackhawks right now probably they do have 4 defensemen that you could say are probably going to be cemented in the lineup this year. And that's Seth Jones, Seth Orr, if you will. Ray, we missed Connor Murphy, Jared Tenorti, and Nikita Zaitsev. Wonderful. So maybe it does matter who the goalies are when that guy's on the ice. At any rate, I mean, it seems like it's those 4 that have roster spots that will seem like they're guaranteed at this time, and then it's guys like Philip Roos and Isaac Phillips who maybe in there, but then other than that, it seems like it's open season. And so with the prospects, and the young blue line, who is going to stick? And I want to hear some predictions and some thoughts out there. Obviously, everyone wants Korchinski to stick. We just don't know if that's possible or not. But are any of the others? We talked about Kaiser maybe in there. Del Mastro, people were excited about him up at the World Junior Tournament last year. Not a ton of buzz around him right now. I don't know. Does anyone think that he's got a legitimate shot? What do you think, Bardo?
So I think he's definitely has a shot. But going back to the 4 veterans that you mentioned, I mean, I think Tenorti could almost be your 6-7 guy. I think it's kind of a swing. I think Zaitsev, I would not be surprised if they kind of put him on waivers and then he ended up being sort of an AHL body and given his contract, get it off the books.
I think they need him at the NHL level, though, to meet the floor.
Oh, is that right? Okay. Yeah. I thought they were still above the floor enough that they could actually do that.
Oh, they might be, but I know they retained his contract.
No, right. That I know. Yeah. But in terms of other guys, I think Del Mastro could get a shot. I do think Velasquez's going to get a shot. I mean, he played pretty extensively last year. I think he played 20 games, 15 games. Played a decent amount, but I think, there's some definitely potential there. I think he's going to get a spot on the blue line for sure.
Yeah. I mean, are there any right-handed defensemen that they have in the system? Everyone's left-handed. It's crazy.
Yeah, they're moving guys around like you saw this weekend. I mean, I think it was Nolan Allen that played on the right side. Right. I mean, I just think that, it is what it is. There's just, that they're just going to work with it. And I don't think it bothers them as much. I think it bothers fans and people like us more than it does them. So
yeah, and it could work. I mean, it's just it's a little. I don't know. Maybe it's just something to be concerned about when you have so many, solid D prospects, and they do have a lot of solid D prospects. You're going to nitpick at that stuff like that. So I don't know.
The good news is that they don't need to force or rush anybody. They can literally keep these guys and let them, marinate, overcook, whatever you want to say, in the AHL even further. So,
yeah. Who are you all? I guess here's another good question, and Brent, I'm going to go to you on this one. Who are you rooting for to make the club out of camp? Bedard's going to make the club out of camp. Korchinski, we got questions about, but as far as some of the other guys, does anyone have any personal favorites? And I'm going to defer and deflect as much as I possibly can due to my Alec Regula claim.
I was going to say he's not on the club
years
anymore.
Ago that I will never live down, and people should continue to give me a really hard time about that, and it is well deserved. But Brent, are you rooting for anybody? Is there anyone you'd like to see? Is there anything you notice where I really want to see this kid do well?
I mean, the fan in me says all of them, obviously.
Sure.
I'd like to not see a bust here. But, right. I mean, honestly, I'm more excited about the possibility of rotating all of these guys in and out. Why stick one guy in there? We have so much youth. These guys need the time. Get them up for a handful of games, send them back down. That's what it's there for. I mean, I'd love to see Korchinski stick. I think everybody would. And I mean, honestly, if we're going back to the D, you've got Zaitsev there. If he's able to stick on an NHL roster, yeah, maybe it's because of salary and we got to meet the 4. But I'd like to think that Korchinski makes a roster if we can safely sit there and be like, yeah, our plan is for Zaitsev to get into as many games as possible. Yeah. Get these young guys in there too. Rotate them in. If a guy starts struggling, send them back down. Don't force it, but let them get their time up here.
Right. And Eric, I think that's a really good point, Brent. Thank you for that. And Eric, do you feel similarly in that regard? I mean, it wasn't that long ago where 2 very good defensive prospects, the Blackhawks, had Duncan Keith and Brent Seabrook, very young in their careers, were rookies, and they basically said, all right, just go play full time as NHL defensemen. And, they kind of fed them to the wolves and said, all right, go learn on the fly. I'm not projecting our defensemen to be Duncan Keith and Brent Seabrook. That's not what's going on here. I'm just saying. I'm
getting my tweet ready. Andy Campbell predicts.
Yeah, I know. But Duncan Keith.
The rink.
Yeah, Duncan Keith was a 2nd round pick, by the way. But at any rate, is there anything bad about that if it's just feeding him to the wolves, Eric?
I mean, I think you have to be careful with it. And I think what Brent was saying, there's nothing wrong with saying, okay, let's give this guy, a 5 or 10 game stretch, let him get his feet wet and get comfortable, learn some things. and then let's give this guy a shot, and then this guy a shot. I think that's kind of, in a way, one nice thing about where the progression of the prospect pool is at right now is there are kind of a lot of guys that are all at a similar point in their development. So you can kind of, be giving them all a little bit of that action, as opposed to, just needing to play a guy full time. Looking at the blue line, I think that probably Alex Vlasic will be full time with the Hawks. He's probably the only one of the young guys that I would say that's likely the case. I think all of the others are probably going to be, on the highway between Chicago and Rockford quite a bit all season. But and up front with the forwards, there's a lot of guys like that too. I think it'll be interesting to see, hopefully, Cole Gutman have a full season and just kind of see what he can do.
I like him.
He definitely showed some flashes at points last year, with that energy and, a little bit of offensive talent as well. So, hopefully for his sake, he can play a full 82 and, actually, really establish himself. I would like to see that.
Yeah. That's a good take. I like that. Vlasic full time up there. Yeah, that should be interesting. I don't know. I'm not a big Vlasic guy. I don't know why that is. I'm not trying to like knock on a guy and ruin him.
You don't like pickles?
No, I honestly, I didn't think much of him at Boston University. I guess maybe 6-7 guys that aren't physical. Being a 5'10" hockey player, I get very envious. And when they're not physical, I'm like, oh man, why can't you just put someone through the glass, buddy? But that's just me, personal preference. Now, this is an interesting thing that's going on right now.
Hold on. Isaac Phillips is my guy, by the way.
Ooh, all right. Okay.
He played 16 games last year with the club, played 4 the year before. He showed a little bit of promise. I'd like to see get him some more runway and see if he could play.
Yeah, and he did very well in Rockford for a while too, for a couple of years. I mean, he's certainly talk about developing a player. I mean, that's
so he's my guy that I hope makes the roster.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good take. I'm going to go to Gate on this one. Just shifting gears real quick. Another announcement heading into training camp. Lukas Reichel is NHL ready, and he is. He is. It's time for Lukas Reichel to be an NHL player. Another guy that they kept in Rockford, developed. But the announcement has been that, or the announcement happened that they're going to start him at center in training camp. Gate, good time to do this, bad time to do this. Will this stick? What's the deal?
It's probably what they should have done all along if that's what they intended on, Yeah. I know I mentioned it last time, but Chris Block actually had an excellent podcast where he went on about how they were mishandling him in Rockford and not playing him in the position where they wanted him in the NHL, or he wasn't killing penalties. He wasn't doing any of the stuff that they were going to try and kind of groom him for in the NHL. So, if they wanted to play center, they had him play center down there, and they want him to play center in the NHL, then you got to try it and figure out. And if not, you could say, hey, you know what? He's not a center. Let's put him at wing. Kind of like the Kirby. Maybe they should have done that with Kirby Doc, Right. He played center and he looked really good early on, but then suddenly, he wasn't all that great. He wasn't winning faceoffs. He wasn't playing physical. Like, put him on the wing then, and, they seem like they're going to go out there. They're going to try it. And they're going to see what happens. And this is the year to do it.
Absolutely. 100%.
Get them out there. I mean, like Brent and Eric and like we're all saying, sure, get them out there. Last year was not the year to play the kids. Last year was the year to tank. You don't want the kids to lose and get used to losing. That's really what you don't want. You don't want that kind of culture. But this year, while we think they're not going to be a great team, they should be better. They should be trending upwards. And there's, sprinkling a little bit of the young kids into the lineup to give them that, that promise and that, hey, we could be good in 2 years kind of, promise. That's the way to go. That's really the way to go. So I think, try him out.
Yeah.
And what's the worst that happens? He's no good at it, and you put him at wing, and then maybe he's pretty good wing. So
yeah, I like that. That's a great take. Barter, you and I were talking similarly about this right before the show began. And if you're going to do this, do it right now. Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. And this is not necessarily a tank year. In fact, it's not a tank year. And Bardo, with that in mind, you feeling similarly? Not a tank year. You're going out there to win games. You're going out there for the experience. Reichel at center, see how it goes.
Yeah, it's kind of like the next step in the rebuilding. It's like you got lucky in the draft, and you got a kid who's going to start day one, and you've surrounded him with people that are going to teach him how to be a pro. And it's like, look, if the team is good, then hey, that's great. If not, then that's what we're all kind of expecting, is that the record's going to be lousy. They're going to probably be in the top 10. But on the Reichel topic, I think, it's so hard in this league to find and develop quality centers. Now is the time to see if he can, play center in the NHL, and then that means play that 180-foot game and be responsible. And so we'll see. He may, and like Gate said, worst case, he goes back to wing, because we know he can play there. He's talented enough that he can score, and he's done it a little bit in the NHL level, but he's done it certainly in the AHL level.
Yeah. I guess we're going to find out a lot about the two top prospects as far as forwards are concerned with the Hawks, with both Reichel and Bedard. Are they actually going to be centers? I think there are still a lot of questions about Bedard, being a regular center. And at some point, is he just going to shift over to the wing and see how that goes? But Reichel at center, I think it's going to be a good take. Like we just talked about, give it a shot and see where the chips fall there. The other thing the other big Blackhawk announcement going into training camp, there'll be no captain to start the season. And I think that those that follow the rink have know that this has been said all along here, because we're great guys and we know what we're talking about. Even Sean, mostly Eric and even Sean.
We're smart guys, not just great guys.
Right. Yeah. With that in mind, there's 2 A's that have been confirmed on the team. That's Connor Murphy and Seth Jones, and they can go duke it out somewhere and figure out who really wants to be the real leader of the pack. But the Hawks do have some other vets coming in, and can we see other letters on other guys, Shawnee? Who else? They signed it. The Blackhawks made some free agent signees that people jumping, why would you give, Corey Perry $4 million for a year? Why would you give Foligno that much money for a year? And, et cetera. Well, folks, what else do you have to sell them on? Number one, the only way you're going to get vets to get around your young guys is you got to give them a lot of money.
Right. You got to pay them, and you need veteran leadership in a new locker room where it's a changing of the guard. Like, there's no longer Jonathan Taves, Patrick Kane. None of those old guard leaders are there anymore. So, and obviously, like Bedard, they don't want to give him the captaincy this year. They're going to let him get his feet wet in the NHL because he's 18, and they don't want to put more pressure on him than there already is. And then you've got Corey Perry, who I know everybody's going to love to boo, but he could be a veteran. He's going to be a veteran leader. Taylor Hall was brought in for that reason. You still have Connor Murphy and Seth Jones on your team. So you have veterans around there that could be the assistant captains. I personally, I'm thinking they're going to go Seth Jones. Maybe they give Bedard the A, one of them. And then, I don't know, maybe they give it to Foligno or Taylor Hall, whoever they think is going to be here for the entirety of the season. Because
Bart
I don't think you want to.
Bard was shaking his head. You said Bedard with the A. Bardo, you really shook your head.
I don't think they're going to put the pressure on him. I'd be very surprised. The guy who I think is going to get the third A is Tyler Johnson. The reason why is because he's been here for a year, probably finishes the year, because I think he's still under contract for another year after this, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Because Corey Perry and Foligno are all 1-year deals, so I think they could be gone by the springtime. They could be traded at the deadline.
Tyler Johnson is this is his last year of the deal.
Oh, it is his last year. Okay, so I'm wrong.
And like water is wet, Tyler Johnson always gets hurt too.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Well, you got Taylor Hall and you got Andreas Athanasiou too that are both here.
Oh yeah, nice to see you.
He actually might. Athanasiou might get that because given his effort and that kid played 82 games. He played hard every single game. That kid was like, scoring goals when the games completely didn't matter. Game 81 and 82, which basically cost the Blackhawks the worst record. Didn't matter in the end, but still. I mean, I think that obviously can be sort of rewarded given his effort. So he might be the guy that gets the third A.
All right, so let's do a wager right now. Everybody gets a guy. All right, the winner gets some sort of prize right now. So is that your guy? Is that your guy, A2, Bardo?
Yeah, what the hell? I'll take him.
We'll go with Gate. Gate, who do you got? Who gets it?
I get to pick anyone?
Anyone. Who gets it? Who gets the third A?
The third A.
All
right, make note of this, folks.
Actually,
I know who I got, but I'll go last, so someone might take him.
Let me see. I'm going to take Taylor Hall.
I like it. Brent, you're new, so you get an early draft pick.
Brent, you're new.
I know. Man.
Based solely on comments made already, I'm going Foligno. Like, he's been the guy for Bedard already. I think even if you do look to trade him at the deadline,
that was mine.
Like, I think you got to give it to him.
Yeah, Eric Andrews.
I'll say this: anybody but Corey Perry. That's all.
It's going to happen. You know it's going to happen just because we all hate it.
Eric, who do you got? Who's the third A?
I'm going to mention someone that has not been mentioned yet at all.
No,
actually,
don't do it because that's who I want. I know you're going to do it.
I'm going to do it purely based on the fact that he wore a letter at times last year. So I think he already has, a leg up in that regard. Jared Tenorti.
Ooh, that's who I wanted.
I'm actually a Jared Tenorti fan. I like Jared Tenorti. I mean, if you put him in the right position, like, I think he's a good, tough guy with experience, and he's not going to be great.
Jared Tenorti, he's awesome.
What's not to like? His dad. He's a dick.
Well, yeah.
Well, that's true.
Hey.
Well, that's true.
So what? He's not his dad, man.
From the North Stars days.
Yeah.
All right, so you got Jared Tenorti, and I think Eric
can change your opinion of him. He's still a dick. Like, that's straight out of Major League 2.
The vast majority of
everybody on that 90.
That's very Eric. Eric does this, folks. He sits around, he marinates, he lets everyone talk, and he goes, "Yeah, I'm going to process, and I'm going to beat them all."
Yeah, poker face.
Which makes sense. All right, so he's got Tenorti. Sean, did you go already?
I did not. I don't even know who's left. I'll say Connor Murphy.
He's got one already.
He's got one.
What the hell's wrong with you?
Well, we give him
nobody
two.
cares, Sean. Nobody cares.
He's taking Bedard. He's taking Bedard. He made.
He's taking Bedard.
I'll take Bedard.
All right, all right. I'm gonna go totally off script here, and there's no snowball's chance in hell. But I'm just wondering. I'm wondering if someone
Dylan Strome.
Dylan Strome is coming back, and they're gonna put an apple on his jersey. I'm going loyalty points for a guy that somehow has survived all of this and no one understands why, and he's still around, but Philip Kurashev.
It's your guy.
Your guy.
You were making fun of Isaac Phillips and how he marinated it. How long has Philip Kurashev marinated in this organization?
He's just always there. I mean,
he's like a 5-year NHL veteran at this point, but he's still a rookie.
There could be a nuclear holocaust, and Kurashev would be the first guy on the ice at the United Center days later. Be like, "Hey, I'm still here."
Right out of the Swiss League, when he played during the COVID year or whatever, right out of the Swiss League. With that juice for those first 5 games, and he's terrible.
Hey, I will throw one from way from left field. This could.
Are you changing your pick?
No, I'm not changing it. I'm just saying this is like an outlier, kind of a surprise one that many people might not think of. Ryan Donato.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He actually played a big part in Seattle's team the last couple of years. And he earned a lot of respect and all that stuff. So I think that's why they brought him in. Now you're not going to see him on your first line or maybe even third line, but the guy's got some respect and he's got that leadership. So I don't really think it'll happen, but if something came out of left field, it wouldn't surprise me.
No, good player.
Yeah. And he played for the U.S. Olympic team in that year where they couldn't send pros.
So he played for Dexter Southfield Prep School out here in Massachusetts.
Dad played with Ray LeBlanc, I believe.
Sure did. Mm-hmm. No, I mean, Donato would be a good pick. I mean, honestly, the way that this team is constructed, though, Donato could see second line minutes at various points during the season.
Up and down the lineup.
Yeah, I mean he shouldn't. He shouldn't be anywhere above third line, and that's saying a lot. I mean, he's a grit guy with a good personality and
more grit.
Yeah. He's one of those guys.
Anyway, so the captainless Hawks. We'll see. So we all have our picks. It's going to look great to see who gets the third A. I like Andrew's pick. I'm jealous.
Wait, look at this. Oh, I got to put it up there. Our boy Ray.
Too
many D-men with letters. That's why I went forward. That's why I went with Taylor Hall, because I think they're going to definitely pick a forward.
Kurashev, Ray. Telling you, man.
Ryan Donato, baby.
I like it. Awesome. All right. Pie in the sky. One last question before we declare victory for the evening. Or we could talk about the NHL too, which would be pretty good. But one last thought on the Blackhawks here. In a perfect world, what happens this season? Like when we look back on this season, at the end of the season, what do you say? Yeah, that makes sense. That's about right. And that's where we should be. Eric. Tenorti, go.
You cut out for a second. Can you repeat the question?
I didn't cut out. Sean did.
True.
This is like a conference call at work.
Yeah,
you're on mute.
Sean,
I got
a
conference call today at work.
Yeah, when you look back on this season in April, because it will be April when you look back on this season. It will not be May.
True.
Thank you.
Let's clear that up, folks. The Blackhawks will not be in the playoffs this year. What
the hopes and dreams of
what are you saying? Okay, good. This is how it should shake out. Now, last year at the time we were going, hey, congratulations, Kyle Davidson. Congratulations, Luke Richardson. Congratulations, Danny Wirtz. You tanked. You got the number one pick. It all worked out. Will we be singing a similar tune? It won't be as divine. It won't be as lovely as getting the number one overall pick, or will it? But when you look back, what do you be like? Okay, that's good. That's what we want out of this year.
I mean, the obvious answer is seeing that next step from a lot of the young players, whether that be guys playing with the Blackhawks, guys in Rockford, or guys not currently in the organization. I think development and progression is unquestionably the biggest thing about this season. Obviously, you'd like to see Bedard, establish himself as being, kind of what people are hoping he's going to be. He's not going to be that, elite superstar right away. More likely than not, that'd be great if he is, but probably not. But, at least show signs that he's going to be a special player and, see that he's, a responsible player across all 200 feet. Not overwhelmed by the physicality. That's obviously big, but yeah, I think just across the board, seeing the young players take that next step in their development is the most important thing.
Yep. Brent, do you feel similarly in that regard? Is there anything that you really want to see happen other than jersey sales and, fun things like that? Ray just wrote in, he wants Macklin Celebrini, ladies and gentlemen, the consensus number one overall next year.
Chicago Steel alum.
Who's going to be a freshman at Boston University, which will be the best team in college hockey this year. If any of you follow college hockey, Boston University is loaded coming in this year.
Mm-hmm.
At any rate, Brent, pie in the sky, when you look back on the season, what do you want to be like, okay, good?
I mean, yeah, if we're talking dream scenario, Ray hit the nail on the head. We somehow piss off the entire NHL fan base and get the number one overall pick again.
That'd be nice.
Drink tears for another year. Like that. I mean, that'd be awesome, but
poor Kyle Beach's name will be slandered some more.
But yeah, I mean, that was a good point. Like, just see everybody develop. I mean, really at this point in your arc of the rebuild, that's all you can really hope for. This team's not winning anything. They shouldn't nearly be as bad as last year.
Right.
Should be at least exciting hockey to watch. At least there's young guys to get excited about. And honestly, if we can continue to flip some of these guys at the deadline and maybe get a little more talent in too, like that's going to be great to see too. So really, as long as, Bedard doesn't get his knee blown out in like game 3 or anything crazy like that, like,
why did you put that out in the world?
No, that was wow. Yeah,
because that's going to happen to me walking tomorrow. It's not going to happen to him.
I'm knocking on anything wood in this room right now.
Yeah, I mean, really, as long as nothing catastrophic happens, this season can really only be positive for this team.
Yeah. Is there any one player or Bardo, are there any players that you have in the tip of your tongue where you're like, I really want this to work out and this would make a big difference for our club moving forward? Other than Connor Bedard?
Yeah, I mean, what everybody said is kind of what I'm thinking, but I also, in addition to the young guys, like I want to see Luke Richardson continue to develop as a head coach.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he did a fantastic job last year because, like, I think we can all agree. I don't think there was one game where they looked completely flat or had no effort. I mean, this team was just overmatched talent-wise every single night, but they just still played hard. So I'd like to see them continue to do that, but then also, let's see him do, situationally X's and O's. I mean, they may not, win games because of X's and O's, but at least, I'd like to see some sort of structure where, he tries things and maybe they don't work or whatever, line combinations. Like I want to see kind of how he reacts to, when does he change up lines? When does he, change up the power play because it struggles? Like that's what I really want to see out of him. Is the continued development of the head coach.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good take too. Gate, is there any part of you are you a big Luke Richardson guy? And do you think it's actually possible a couple years from now that Luke Richardson is a guy that is still a head coach if they're actually going to be a cup contender?
I am a Luke Richardson guy. I like what I've seen. He says a lot of great things. He seems to have a voice that everybody listens to in the room. He seems to command the room. Like he has all the things you want as a head coach. Yeah. And there were flashes last year of things, that looked all right. It didn't look completely abysmal, So yeah, I mean, he could work out. If he doesn't, he's going to go somewhere else and probably have a good career somewhere. You know, they may decide that that right guy hits. Mike Babcock's on the market, but
boy.
They may think
we're
that.
Gonna get into that in a second.
Yeah,
they may. Your phone.
Yeah, they may think that the right guys out there that could just push them right over the edge. Gerard Gallant or who knows, whatever they think, at that point in time, who may be available. And I don't know. And I'm not saying that they may be the right people, but they may think, like that Joel Quenneville hiring that happened right before, the Hawks won their cups. They brought him in as a consultant. You knew he was going to be the next head coach. You knew everyone knew what was going to happen. So like they may do that kind of thing, but they may not, maybe they like Luke and maybe they believe, in Luke, we believe, and that's fine too. For me, as far as me, like I always see it from the net. So like, I want to see, I want to see Soderblom play well. I want to see, them not rush the guys in AHL, just let them play in the AHL and be, if they're going to be good AHL players for a year, if you need to bring them up because of when Mrazek gets hurt, that's going to happen. They're going to also have probably, I would assume Dylan Wells might still stay in the organization, but even behind all that stuff, you Adam Gajan, that
was a great pick.
Yeah, that was a good pick.
He was the top ranked goalie. They got him in the second round. Like, how could you complain about that? So like, let him develop. I want to see how the goalies develop, so they don't have to go out there and maybe overspend for too many years on a goalie like a Cristobal Huet situation, which ended up just being a pain in the butt in the end. If you have a couple of young goalies,
Chris Drieger.
Yeah, well, I like Chris Drieger, but yeah, he just got injured. His problem was he got injured. Anyway, let's just see if you can have some young cost control goalies in the system, and that could help you a lot down the road when you maybe need to make that Marian Hossa move to just push it over the edge, with a good young team, bring someone in to team with Bedard or whatever you're going to do in 2 or 3 years when they're actually competitive.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's a good call. And I think that I do like that Gajan pick. And I know we didn't really get much into the Blackhawks draft after it happened, but the Gajan pick's great. He's going to be at Michigan State, or is enrolled in Michigan State right now, who I actually predict will finish ahead of University of Michigan this year. I know bold, but Michigan State is also stacked. For those of you that are following college hockey out there.
Well, those college kids, they just don't develop, and it's
terrible.
Terrible. Frank Nazar, man.
Yeah, they don't get that week of training camp.
Yeah. Yeah, they're missing out. They're missing out on some big stuff. Yeah, for me, with the Hawks, it's Lukas Reichel. I really want to see this work out. I really want him for the Blackhawks not to feel that after this year that he is disposable in this thing. That he's someone where they say, well, maybe we could move him for a few parts and maybe better off without him. Part of this, I don't think it'll come to that, but I think we're at that point with Reichel where it's like they've taken the time to develop him. Trey Augustine, there you go. Thank you, Ray. They've taken the time to develop him. It's I hate to say it's make or break time, but we might be nearing that point. It's like, all right, let's see if this kid is going to be a good pro and hopefully be part of the next wave of the Hacks.
Well, come on, he's elite, right?
Yeah.
Didn't we hear about how elite he was?
I don't know. Yeah. 21st overall pick. Isn't that what he was?
Hey, Andy, I think Kyle Davidson is the one I want to watch.
Yeah.
Like what he's going to do with you. Because now he doesn't have his dad as the chairman. He's fully in control of the organization. Not that he wasn't before.
Are you talking about Are you talking about Rocky Wirtz and Danny Wirtz, Sean?
I'm talking about Danny and Kyle Davidson. Like Kyle Davidson and Danny
are Kyle, and you said his dad. We're not talking.
Sorry, I apologize.
God damn it, Kyle.
I think it was like the theoretical daddy.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were confused.
In any event, I think Davidson and Danny Wirtz is something to watch this year because for Davidson, he only has 10. You can only carry 50 50 people under contract. The Hawks are already at 40. So they're going to have to make some decisions if they flip guys at the deadline, what they're going to acquire, draft picks and stuff like that. So it's going to be really interesting. This season is all about development, but it's also about okay, this is the next step in the plan. The plan is either going the way they thought it would be, or it's not going the way they thought it would be. And then what does he have to do in terms of pivoting? Does he use his draft capital in different ways? So that's what I'm excited to look at. Obviously, everybody is going to say on the ice, and obviously I wanted Soderblom to hopefully establish himself as an NHL goalie and a regular. But off the ice, I would love to see what Davidson does in terms of the deadline, developing draft picks, signing contracts, and things like that. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm not as intrigued with Davidson, and I'm intrigued with Davidson, but it doesn't seem like on the current roster they don't have as many parts that you can flip that are as attractive as it might have been a year ago.
For sure, but you still have to figure out what you have in your Philip Ruse or your Isaac Phillips.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Guys like that, and he's going to have to make decisions on those guys.
I actually think Connor Murphy can be one of the most attractive players available at the deadline, if not maybe the most attractive defenseman available.
Especially if you put an A on his chest, you know how that creates so much trade value. It does. It makes sense, but it does.
Yeah.
But think about who was the top guy last year. It was who was the guy from Washington that went to Boston?
Orlov?
Yeah. I mean, what was he? He was probably a middle pair defenseman
who
could play in the top line if you needed him to, but he was better off in the middle.
Oh, my God. That was the guy from Columbus. They did the same thing with him. That guy was garbage.
David Savard?
No. He's a Russian. No, he's a Russian defenseman. The name skips me. He went to the Kings. And he signed with the Kings.
I don't remember.
But anyway, he was. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, Gavrikov. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was garbage. He was garbage. That guy was hot garbage, flaming garbge. Every time he played the Blackhawks, he was picking the puck out of the net. He was just awful. And I even noticed it enough to comment on Twitter about it. And usually it's no name guys on an opposing team. You never say anything about him.
Right.
This guy, I'm like,
well, look at it this way. Connor Murphy has been at best steady for an awful team for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
What could he do for a cup contender? So there you go. I think to me,
if healthy, another guy.
Yeah, you're right. That's another thing. If healthy.
Yeah. Well, he's not that expensive. He's on the hook for 3 more years at 4.4 for a little over $4 million per year. So that's not that bad. Someone could easily afford that. You'd have to keep him around and just hope that he's healthy for a little bit longer. But no, that's not bad. Other than that, I don't suspect. Maybe someone will want Corey Perry. But at the same time, you're not going to get much more than a 5th round pick, 6th round pick for him, or a bag of pucks.
At that point,
if Tyler Johnson's, I was going to say if Tyler Johnson's healthy and scoring, I mean, you're talking about a kid who has, cup experience and also can, play center, play wing, help your power play. That's valuable in come postseason.
And they could retain some of his money because they're only retaining one contract currently, so that could be something to watch.
And as far as forwards go, they have 5 players who are under contract for next year, which is Taylor Hall, Andreas Athanasiou, Kurashev, Donato, and Bedard. So they only have 5 forwards that are under contract. Everybody could be just flipped. And on defense, you got the aforementioned Seth Orr and Nikita Zaitsev. Or no, actually, Connor Murphy.
Zaitsev's off the books.
And Wyatt Kaiser, and that's it.
Oh, I thought Murphy was free after this year. My fault.
Yeah, Kurashev's going to get expensive right after he gets that A.
Murphy has 2 more years left.
Did he sign an extension and I don't remember it?
I guess he did. Well,
he got
around for 3 more years.
Yeah, 3 more years.
And Seth Jones's contract goes off the page. That's how long he's under contract.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, cool. There's something else. So let's just real quick in the next 5 minutes or so, let's just go around the league. There's 2 big topics. One is Steve Stamkos had a few things to say regarding not getting or thought he was going to get offered a contract extension over the offseason. I didn't see it. I saw the tweet or anything, but there's that. And then we're going to get into Mike Babcock briefly, but any comments, any fodder on the thoughts around the Stamkos thing? Is that some sort of signal that this is the end for him in Tampa Bay, Brent? Or is this one of those, like, this is just going to be swept under the rug? He'll be he'll be a bolt for life, something of that.
I don't know. There was a lot to unpack in the comments from both sides on that one. Like, everybody was kind of talking without saying anything on both sides of that. Like, Stamkos has obviously been the guy for that team forever. Like, he wants his guarantee that he's going to stay there. You can certainly understand that. But, I mean, he's old. He's been hurt. If you're Tampa Bay, you're constantly doing a magic show of how you get your team under the salary cap every year. I mean, is Stamkos the guy you want to bring back again? I don't know. Maybe he's not. But if I'm sitting here as Kyle Davidson, hey, give me Stamkos and the ghost of Brent Seabrook, and we'll throw you a couple picks and solve all your problems.
Yeah. It'll be payback for the Hagel stuff.
Well, and also you got to trade or let a guy go a year too early, and not rather than a year too late. A much wiser hockey guy than me said that, and it makes a lot of sense. And they did with pretty much with Patrick Kane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which if Patrick Kane, everyone keeps bemoaning why the Blackhawks haven't re-signed him, and
oh my God.
Eric and I got into a little bit of a Twitter war with somebody, and just about how the Blackhawks organization would be failing if they didn't offer Patrick Kane a contract if Detroit offered him a contract. Mm. And his main sticking point was, well, Connor Bedard changed the projection. He changes the projection total, but he doesn't change the calculus. And the calculus is that Patrick Kane doesn't help this team. And Connor Bedard and all the young guys are going to be living in his shadow for the entirety of his time here. So,
well, if you brought Taylor Hall in, and if you didn't bring Taylor Hall in, then maybe you do that. But you can't have Taylor Hall and Patrick Kane out there if you want this kid to develop with some of the kids that are his age. You can't put him out there with these guys that are not going to be there in 2 or 3 years. If of them. Like, you got to mix them in with some kids he's going to actually be playing with in a couple of years to create some kind of chemistry.
Yeah,
and
totally. Yeah.
If you just put too many veterans on that roster, and the kids are never going to get a chance to play. And this is when you let them play. This is the perfect year to let them play. and let Patrick Kane chase a cup or whatever he's going to do somewhere else. Like, if Hall wasn't here, I'd be okay with it, and that's fine. It's all good and well. But with Hall here, like, let's not. You got enough veterans that are mucking up the system here. Let's not add another one on there that isn't going to be here when you are good.
Yeah, that makes sense. Where does Patrick Kane end up, folks? Thoughts? Eric, what do you think?
Not Chicago.
Not Chicago. Back to New York?
It's so hard to say right now. I mean,
no one.
I think a lot of it also comes down to what is he willing to take financially.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to determine, what teams would be able to take him on in the first place. So, I mean, if he's adamant about getting $5 million, that's going to cut down on the market a lot. But if he says, I just want to chase another cup, I'll take $1 million, then I think there's a lot of teams that would say, yeah, we'll take Patrick Kane for $1 million, no problem.
Yeah.
I couldn't even pick a team to go
even
with.
$4 million. $4 million is reasonable for a Patrick Kane, I think. It's a little on the high side.
It makes sense with DeBrincat there. So I think that he wants to reunite with him. I really believe that.
It's just,
you know what? And that, all that being said, you brought that up about the contract. We don't know that he got offered a contract. This is all just a theory.
Right.
That, there's some rumor out there. Like, we don't know that Detroit did it. It was someone, offhandedly said something about Detroit and how he may want to, reunite with DeBrincat, and everyone just went off just jumped off the bridge for it.
Yeah.
And just
I do want to see him in Carolina, and so does Ray.
With Teuvo?
Yeah. That'd be good.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I just think I'm trying to show Ray's comment, but yeah, I think we've mentioned this before. I mean, I think that'd be his best shot for a cup. I think Carolina would have to move around some parts, but if he's willing to go somewhere, and it just seems like that'd be a really good fit. But who knows? I mean, Kaner will land somewhere. He'll be playing hockey at some point before the new year, and hopefully with a cup contender. Last piece before we wrap up: Mike Babcock re-signed as the coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets, and that's going to be it for Mike Babcock in the NHL, and might be it for him coaching in general. And I mean, the rumors, the stories, that, he was going through my phone, or, he made me show pictures up there. And then who was the player involved? He said, no, he didn't. It wasn't like that. The bottom line with Mike Babcock is it sounds like he just creeps people out, man. I mean, he just makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I don't really know what else to say.
Yeah, he does.
I mean,
and there was, whatever they claim he was trying to accomplish, like, there's ways of doing that.
Yeah.
And there's ways of doing it that don't make people, you prepare them a little bit, you give them a little bit of warning. It sounds like what happened is he surprised these people, and these people weren't expecting this. And I mean, if you look at your phone, there's things that are probably private on it that you don't want being flashed up on an AirPlay screen. That's just kind of the way it is. That's the way the world is nowadays. So let them prepare for a second. Hey, tell them on the way in the door, or, today's meeting, have 5 pictures of things you're proud of, or things that mean a lot to you, or whatever. And we'll show them up on the board. And then maybe they'll be more comfortable. But when you basically just ambush them when they come in the door, and, those kids are going to feel uncomfortable for sure.
Well, I mean, can you imagine going into any job and your employer's like, give me your phone?
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing you do is you go to HR and you get rid of this person.
And I'm not even worried,
Right.
But I still wouldn't want. What do you want to do with my phone?
Well, I don't exactly. I mean, especially after all that. I am not the biggest Paul Bissonnette guy in the world. I don't think he's a bad person, but I'm just not big on outspoken hockey minds. It's just not my stilo. That's not how I roll. So when he first came out and was blasting Babcock, I was like, oh, this guy again. He's just trying to make a name for himself, but. He ended up being right, so I guess credit to him, and I'm sure that's what he wanted, was credit for being right on that.
And he deserves it.
And he deserves it.
Yeah.
And he deserves it. But he said something interesting, and it's after what happened with Mitch Marner, and how he left the Leafs. Yeah, he just didn't learn anything, and he didn't adjust or change his ways at all. And so, I mean, all eyes were on him as a hire when it happened. And, for him to just implode like that right away. I mean, it's goodbye. That's it. So,
well, it makes you wonder, because was he working at a college or a junior team or something like that? I think he was.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, he was a volunteer assistant at University of Vermont.
I mean, what was he doing there?
I don't know. I think his son plays there. And he was around Merrimack College a lot because he was living locally for a while. So, I mean, I would see him around the rinks and stuff. I mean, not to engage with him. I certainly didn't.
Did he ask for your phone?
No, but I thought about giving it to him. But now, I don't know. Weird dude.
Yeah, if he gets another job, that'll be bad.
Nah, I don't. I think that's it. That's got to be.
That ship has sailed.
Yeah, that's
they tried to do the happy tour of Mike Babcock, and it failed miserably.
Yeah, it just didn't go well. Yeah. So that's too bad. All right, well, that should do it for tonight. Good stuff, gentlemen. Go Hawks. This should be fun. Folks, we're going to be back a little bit more now on the regular now that it's September and the season is upon us. And let's see what these Hawks can do. It should be a much more fun follow than a tank job. That's for sure. You have a generational talent. Everyone's rooting for him, and you got a lot of young guys to check in on. Don't be focused on the win column because that ain't really where it should be right now, and it won't be looking so hot. But a lot of good hockey to follow moving forward. Any last shots out there, boys?
Progress isn't linear.
I just want to say, hey, keep coming back to the website. We're going to have a lot of cool new stuff this year. So make sure you go over to the-rink.com and check out all of our stuff. Brent's going to be coming on and adding some content for us. We also have our Colorado division too. It's been really kicking ass. Ryan and Brennan, and we have Savvy, who's a new writer. So the three of them have really just been turning out a whole bunch of content. So come over and check out if you like the Avs too. Come over and check it out. So that's all I had to say.
Awesome. Well, Brent, welcome aboard. It's going to be great to have you this year, buddy. And the rest of the Rinkcasters, thank you, Bardo. Thank you, Gate. Thank you, Shawnee. Thank you, Eric Andrews. Andy Campbell signing off for tonight. Go Hawks. We'll see you all very, very soon.